In this video, you will learn about measures of center. The questions we will answer today are: what are mean, median, and mode, and how do I calculate them? What is an outlier? Which measurement is most affected by an outlier, the mean, the median, or the mode, and why? And which measure best describes a set of data, the mean, the median, or the mode, and also why? First, let's discuss what are measures of center. So as I mentioned, mean, median, and mode, those are three examples of measures of center. A measure of center is a summary measurement that is an attempt to describe a whole set of data with a single value that represents the middle or center of its distribution, which means like the spread or set of data. So the purpose of the mean, the median, or the mode is attempting to describe the middle or the center of a set of data. The mean is found by adding all of the data and dividing it by the number of items in the data set. The median is the middle number when the list is ordered from least to greatest, or if there are two numbers in the middle, because there is an even number of data, then we need to find the mean or the average of the middle two numbers. And I will show you an example of how to do that. The mode is just the number or numbers that occur most often. So let's practice finding the mean, median, and mode for the temperatures of these 8 days in January. So the mean is found by adding up all 8 numbers and then dividing by 8. That gives us 44.875. The median, if you put all of the numbers in order from least to greatest, is going to fall halfway between 46 and 51. Since there are 8 numbers in the data set, there is no one number that's directly in the middle. So therefore, we must add 46 and 51, divide by 2, so that we can find halfway between 46 and 51. The mode is 51 because it occurs the most in this set of data. Sometimes there are no modes. There might be no numbers that repeat, and there also might be multiple modes if there are multiple numbers that occur more than once or the same number of times. Now we're going to talk about an outlier. An outlier is an extreme value in a set of data. Now we're going to recalculate the mean, the median, and the mode without the outlier of 16 as part of the data set. So this time we're going to add up all the numbers except 16 and divide by 7. That is a mean of 49. The median now, if I take the 16 out, is 51 because that is directly in the middle of the 7 numbers, and the mode is still 51. Which of those measures, the mean, the median, or the mode, is most affected by the outlier? Let's go back and compare our answers to question 2 to the ones from question 1. So our mean was 49 after we took the outlier out. In example 1, it was 44.875. The median without the outlier was 51, and with the outlier it was 48.5, and then we saw the mode did not change at all. So which one is most affected by the outlier? As you can see, the mean has the biggest difference between about 45 and 49. The median only changed by about 1.5 to 2. So the answer here is that the mean is most affected by the outlier. It's 4.125 lower with the outlier. Why do we think this is true? If we can factor in how we calculate the mean, we're literally adding up all the numbers in the set of data and then dividing by how many there are, so that we're getting an average that they're all about around 49. So if you look at the numbers in this table, there should be some numbers below 49, which there are. There's 1, 2, 3 numbers below 49, and then there should also be some numbers above 49, which there are 4. So it's roughly in the middle of all of the 7 numbers that are left. But if I go back to example 1, my mean was about 44.875. Here, I only had 2 numbers that were below the mean, and the rest of them were above the mean. That means it's not a really good depiction of the average because it's not anywhere in the middle. It's closer to the lower numbers than the higher numbers. So the point of the mean is to give us an average of all of them. But when you have an outlier like 16, it's going to pull that number down because 16 is much lower than the other numbers. On the other hand, if the outlier was very high, like let's say we had like an 80-degree day in January, then it would make our mean a lot higher and it would be way above all of the other numbers in the data set. The mean is not as much affected because all I did was take the lowest number off and then just kind of shifts it up by 1 number. And 46 and 51, they're pretty, they're not very spread out because they're in order from least to greatest. So that is not going to be as affected by just cutting out that outlier that's on the end than the mean is going to be much more affected because you're actually adding that value in. So how do I know which one is the best? Well, as we just discussed, the mean is not going to be a great depiction of the middle of the data if there are any outliers. So if you see this chart, you have this on your notes as well. The mean is most useful when the data has no extreme values or outliers. And that's like we just saw that outlier is going to change the mean the most versus the median or the mode. The median is most useful when the data does have extreme values or outliers because it's not going to change that much. This is just kind of an additional, the median is but if there are no big gaps in the middle. We don't see that super often, but from time to time you'll see some gaps in the middle of the data with a lot of things on the lower end, some things on the higher end, and then nothing in the middle. Then in that case, we would not want to use the median because the median would fall in the middle where there is no data. So that's what that means. But we only see that in rare instances. And then finally, the mode is most useful when the data has many repeated numbers. Or I would like to add to this, or if the data is not, how do I explain this? So if the data is not, aren't numbers. So for example, if the data is more like how many people like the color purple or how many people like blue, you would pick the mode to describe which one is most favored. So we would use mode if the data is not numerical, if that makes sense. So mode is a tricky one because we don't use it too often as the best measure. It's usually going to be either mean or median. So going back to the data with the temperatures, in this case, the one that would describe the data the best would be the median because we said the outlier will affect the mean the most. Based on this histogram, this bar graph, which is the best measure, the mean, the median, or the mode, and why? I would say the mean would be the best measure here because it doesn't appear that there are any outliers. You do see most of the data here in the middle, when some data on each end though, meaning I would not call any of these outliers. An outlier you would see if you had a big gap and then something down here. That would be an outlier, but we don't have that. So I would say that the mean would be an appropriate measure to represent the heights of the cherry trees. Okay, and if you would like just a little bit more practice, you can use this dot plot to find the mean, the median, and the mode as some extra practice.